welcome everyone to this Digital Alliances session, predominantly for the InfoSec, CyberSec, CISO Alliances communities across UK, Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, Mauritius, and South Africa. Welcome to you all. We have partnered with the CyberPeace Institute as the CISO Alliances. We are aiming to support as many of their initiatives as possible, but we need your help, is the long and short of it, with why we've brought you here, to hopefully convince you to invest something into it, even if it's a greater understanding of what it is. You guys and girls have a huge amount of experience as a collective in an industry which doesn't have a lot of experience or skills-based experience. And we would like to give you the awareness of what the CyberPeace Institute is trying to achieve directly from the horse's mouth, the horse being Fabien in this instance. And we encourage you to be part of what they're trying to achieve. Okay, I will pass you over to the program manager, which is Fabien now. We will have a discussion and debate. There's Q&A within this session. The chat is live and monitored by myself, Phil, and James. James is here somewhere for the UK community. You guys will be familiar with James. So engage when you can, when you want. We will stop the recording so you can engage candidly if you feel that would be more appropriate, or if you wish to use anonymous prompting into the session, then utilize us on WhatsApp or email, wherever you prefer to do. Fabien, I'm going to pass it over to you to make a full introduction. I'm actually not going to try your surname because it's being recorded. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Faith. Hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be there with you, live from Geneva, Switzerland. So you will have a bit this afternoon the Swiss-French accent. So sorry in advance, but you will see it's almost like French but better because it's the Swiss one. So that will be easy to follow. So my name is Fabien Leimgruber. I'm program manager here at the CyberPeace Institute. I have a background mainly in cybersecurity. I work for the Swiss government, private sector. Then I shift a bit to the humanitarian world. I work at the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, you probably heard about or may know in the different country where you operate, where I did cyber awareness program. So that was pretty cool activity in the past. So traveling the world to train staff, understand the different culture, understand the different challenges around the world on cybersecurity. Was a very nice experience. And almost 3 years ago now, I jumped at the CyberPeace Institute. So we are a non-profit organization with the headquarters in Switzerland. And our principal mission is to reduce the harm of cyber attack on vulnerable communities. So when I joined the Institute, it was really the beginning of the adventure. So, you know, like an NGO startup that you have to build around cyber. And that was very exciting. So that was an amazing start of the journey. And with the time, we are able to grow a bit the different activities of the Institute. So I will focus today on one specific activity we have that is called the CyberPeace Builders, which is a corporate volunteering initiative. We'll come back on that. Just to give you a short overview of the CyberPeace Institute. So we are 30 staff in Europe. Still have one colleague on my side that is in Nairobi and one other colleague that is in Bogota. And most of the staff is currently located in Europe. And we have three main teams. So we have one team that do advocacy, more on law, regulation, policies around cybersecurity. We have an analysis team that help us to investigate cyber attack, do research, produce reports on different attacks. You may have seen one that was done on the healthcare sector last year. So that's typically the job of the analysis team. And on the last end of the institute, you have the assistance unit. So in the assistance unit, we aim really to work closely with NGOs around the world to improve their own situation in regard of cyber, protect better their cybersecurity assets. So the day they're hit by a cyber attack, there will be less impact on the people on the ground. So that's really the mission and what we try to do. And it was really a nice opportunity for us when Late come back to me, say, okay, we would like to partner with you, give a bit more visibility on what you do, because definitively, I mean, you're the target audience we have to pitch about humanitarian and cybersecurity. Voila for a short intro. I will just share my screen so I have some slides. As it was said, if you have any questions or remarks, please don't hesitate to interrupt me. It will be my pleasure. I'm not a big talker, so we'll try to keep it short in any case so we can have the time after to discuss together. Can you see my screen? Yes, perfect. So when I left the private sector, was working in a cybersecurity company. I was leading the threat intelligence team. And you know, it was always a bit the same. I mean, especially when you work in Switzerland, most of your customers, they are bank, they are cyber insurance, they are more or less big companies. And they all get cyber attack. They all get cyber attack. They got impacted. They had maybe to shut down for 1 day, 2 days after an attack. Sometimes it go up in the press, sometimes not. But usually, a few months after the attack, all operations are back to normal and everyone forgot about that. And you know, especially when you're a CISO, usually that's when you get money suddenly to put stuff in place, and then the money disappear because no one remind what happened to the organization, to the companies, and you are a bit forgotten again, but the life continue. When I shifted to the humanitarian world, I started to discover the situation could be different. In fact, the impact of cyber attack, depending the type of organization you are, is very different. That's an example you have on the screen that happened to an organization based in the UK, in fact. So this is a real example. And can you imagine the impact behind that? So you're an NGO working with orphans, you provide services to them, you help them, etc. And suddenly you get hit by an attack. And you know, as all these ransomware attacks, you can start to chat, discuss with the cyber criminals on the other side. And when you see that the reply was, oh, but we make you a discount, I mean, it could make laugh people, but the reality is that it's awful. If you can imagine that people are willing to target humanitarian organization, NGO, to ask them for money, and that the consequences at the end say, oh, you get a discount, it's not realistic. Doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you work in the humanitarian sector, that's totally crazy to see this collaboration between the cyber criminals and the nonprofit sector. And this is not an isolated case. I mean, you have more and more cyber attacks that happen around the world that target humanitarian actors. And we are now 8 billion people on this earth, and still 1 billion people, they need non-profit organizations around the world to access critical services, access food, access water, education, healthcare, all these kind of things that seems for us, okay, we have that. It's either a government that provides private company, or in some case, by myself that I produce my own electricity. But 1 billion people, they rely on non-profit organizations to get access to this kind of help. And on the other side, you have cyber attack. You have so many cyber attacks that happen. The first example, to keep it very short, Root of Peace, US entity working in Afghanistan got hit by a cyber attack. They lost 1.1 million US dollars. It was almost all the operational budget for the people in Afghanistan. So, you know, from one day to the other, you are a farmer that gets support, get the tools, get the training, get that material to grow your stuff. And from one day to the other, there is no money anymore, and everything is shut down. And for me, that had a real impact. When you look between the difference into the corporate sector, the impact of cyber attack into the corporate sector versus the impact of cyber attack in the humanitarian world, you say, wow, gosh, that's really different. The impact is totally different. So of course, you need to protect all the chains. So you need to protect the private sector, you need to protect the public sector, but on the other side, you also have to be able to protect these NGOs. ICRC got cyber attacked, 500,000 sensitive data gets stolen. Philadelphia Food Bank attacked, $1 million stolen. And we have so many examples like that. And you know, sometimes it's not that complex. We had a case, it was by end of last year, Instagram account compromised. Say, okay, Instagram, whatever. But some NGOs, they only rely on social media to engage with the community or talk with the partners or to try to fundraise. And in that case, it was a healthcare NGO that got hit by a cyber attack on their Instagram account. And you know the common story, we all heard this story so many times. You get a phishing email that hit the communication team, or you are using a copyright image on Instagram. Please click here to verify or to resolve the case. And of course, when you click on the link, you go on a phishing website, you enter your credential, and that's it. Consequences after that is that you have the cyber criminals. They took they get access to the account. They changed the email, they changed the password, and changed the phone numbers related to this account. And that was it. They send a WhatsApp message to the NGO telling them, hey, we took over your account. If you don't pay us money, you will never get it back. And it was 3 days before a huge fundraising campaign for the NGO. So you can also imagine the consequences here in terms of trust, in terms of relationship, partnership. So even this NGO or these people that told you, oh, you know, we don't care of cybersecurity, we have nothing to protect. Just look at social media. Emails. We got a case, it was also last year, you may be reminded, it was a vulnerability on Exchange server, Microsoft Exchange servers. Because, you know, NGOs usually, they don't like the cloud. They love to have the computer in the office, they can touch it. You know, how the emails are here on my computer, I'm happy with that, you can touch it. But at the same time, they don't have the resources, they don't have the people to maintain all this system up to date. So consequences, of course, there was a vulnerability on Exchange, system not patched, and cybercriminals started to enter the Exchange server and send out email that, of course, technically looked like legitimate email that was even taking back previous messages to the different organization. So you can imagine the impact when you are on the field and there is an organization that you usually was trusting, you were trusting this organization that start to send you phishing email with malware, and then say, okay, the trust is gone. And that's one of the biggest challenges that NGO face today is how can we maintain the trust we were able to construct on the field, on the ground, talking to people, working with communities on the ground. How can we ensure this trust is kept into the digital world? That's one of the biggest challenges this NGO faces. The answer for them is a bit complex because if there is so many cyber attack, is because on the other side, even if they go digital, they are not yet prepared. If you look at NGOs, there is money. I mean, there is not necessarily a huge amount of money that you can steal or get out from a ransomware, but it's always a question of return on investment. If the attack is easy to conduct, if you can easily extract or keep a bit of money the NGO gets, you make your day. Data, some of them operate with very sensitive data. If you can steal this data, or if you're paid to destroy some data, that could be very interesting. There is an NGO here in Geneva that work on it's called Trial International. They work on specific cases for judgment, and the data they have is very sensitive. And of course, they try to prosecute a lot of people from African countries that are dictator, etc., etc. And if this country have the resources, or the people have the resources to get access to data and tool to destroy the data stored, there is huge consequences. So you need to be able to protect all this data and their financial resources, so big payout. Low risk, because of course, depending where you are, and you know that especially in the different countries you may be working with, you can still try to go to the police and ask them, okay, I got hit by a cyber attack, what should I do? I mean, even here in Europe, when you go to the police and tell, oh, I was hit by an attack, what can we do? They don't have any answer. So you're let alone. You are alone in your situation. You have to figure it by yourself. And what about the press, the media? If you are working in Yemen, as an NGO, you got hit by a cyber attack in Yemen, you can believe that in the UK, in Europe, in the US, or whatever, no one will talk about these kind of cases. So it's also very easy or less risky for the cyber criminal to target, especially NGO. And easy prey because, of course, they are not prepared. They need to digitalize all their operation. That's a key asset for them. If you look in migrant camps, you have more and more humanitarian actors and workers that travel the camps with iPad because they start to need to collect data on the migrants. Working with ICRC, you have always this situation, you have a food distribution point. So you distribute rice, you distribute water, etc. But that started to be normal for people. Say, okay, that's okay. I go there. I will get food. I will get water. I will get etc. No people want to get Wi-Fi. If you look, especially the migrants in Africa, they all have a smartphone. So they need Wi-Fi to be connected with their family, with their friends. So suddenly you need to digitalize all this operation. But NGOs don't have the capability and the resource to protect themselves properly. One of the first reasons is who flows the money. A lot of time when you get money from donors, they tell you, okay, this is money I want to be invested on the ground in a specific field of operation. And it's very difficult then to reassess or reattribute this money for a headquarter IT operation, IT security operation. So that's one of the biggest challenges. Then you have the skills gap. I mean, you know that better than the other. I mean, if you look in the cybersecurity field, finding cyber expert is a mess. It's very difficult. Just taking the example here around me in Geneva. So you know that in Geneva, city of peace, you have a lot of headquarters of these international NGOs. But at the same time, you have so many private banks. And all the cyber experts move to the private banking sector because, of course, the conditions are better, the salary is more interesting, etc., etc. So it means that you don't have any workforce available to work closely directly with the NGOs. So that's definitely one of the biggest challenges we face working with this NGO is to tell them, okay, how can we ensure we are able to help you to reduce the harm of cyber attack when you are hit to better protect your vulnerable communities on the other side. Do you have any questions so far? Or is it something that you also saw in your different situation context, having these challenges working with NGOs?
Go on,
Yeah, Reg?
Hi, Fabien, maybe just a question from my side, and that is just looking at these attacks and what typically gives your cyber operations and your security operations teeth to act is obviously your controls based on your GRCs. So how well defined is NGO or are NGOs in terms of compliance standards that are out there and set, which will then obviously govern the risk and compliance models that will be followed. And I presume it will still pretty much be ISO 27001 and 2 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a very good question and it's a very big challenges, in fact. If you look at the NGO, you have so many different sides of the structure. What we saw is that most of the structure are around 500 staff, and they simply don't have the capability to go for certification. So they have nothing in place. They have nothing in place, and one of the reasons is because today, when you get funds from philanthropy or big donors, there is not the cybersecurity constituent in place. So there is no check on the cybersecurity safeguard these organizations have in place. So as far that there is no requirement for them to be compliant with any certification, it's not happening. So you will see after what we are trying to do is also to focus on specific certification. So we are looking notably at Cyber Essential in the UK or on list with the US, and to define with this NGO what is the MVP in terms of controls that they have to put in place that may at least reduce the impact of cyber attack. And on the other side, we try to convince and discuss with philanthropy, with donors, with foundation to tell them, okay, what are the criteria you need to put in place before you give money to an NGO to ensure there is cyber control in place.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I feel your pain and I see where you're coming from, but and maybe just in my opening statement, it would be to give any operational teeth and resilience, you will need to at least set those foundations in terms of GRC, governance, risk, and compliance.
Absolutely. Fully
Thank you
agree.
very much.
Fully agree. Thank you. Thank you. Any other point, because I move a bit further on what we do?
No, we're
Nope.
good, Fabien. Go for it.
Great. So when you look at all of this, so okay, there is an issue. There is this talent gap, there is the financial gap, and on the end of the chain, there is people that may suffer due to cyber attack. And of course, if you start to you are expert in cybersecurity and you have that in your DNA, you want to make the world better, you want to secure the stuff, you want to improve the situation. But if you start to go to the people at the end of the chain and you tell them, hey, do you have 2FA in place? What's your password strategy? You may miss a bit the target when you work with people that need access to critical stuff like water or food. So you have to go one step back. You have to go one step back, and this step is to work with the NGOs that are active on the ground, that work with these vulnerable communities. And you have to teach them the best practices in terms of cybersecurity. But to teach them, explain them, work with them, of course, you need talent. You need cyber talent. So even if the team here at the Institute is amazing and super lovely, we are not enough. We're not enough people. So we created a program that is called the CyberPeace Builders, where we do partnership with private company that accept to give out resources to help this NGO to improve their own cybersecurity. So it's really a skill-based volunteering program that we created to bring assistance to this nonprofit organization. And it's really needed. It's really needed because if you look at all the impact of cyber attack on this NGO, without these skills, they can do nothing. So what we decided to put in place is kind of matchmaking systems. So on one side, we work with NGOs. So we onboard NGOs into the program. We sit down with the NGO and we start to do kind of a general security assessment. It's a very light cybersecurity assessment, but that can be understood by this NGO. Why I said understood by this NGO is that most of the time, they don't have anyone that do cyber, even not cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is very far from them. Someone that do cyber, so he's in charge of the laptop, installing stuff, etc. But most of the time, you have to deal with the person in charge of finance that also oversee IT, or with the person in charge of social media. Because most the case, and especially when we work with NGO in Africa, say, okay, the person that knows the computer and the system is the person in charge of Facebook. So suddenly you said, wow, okay, I have to adapt my language, I have to adapt the kind of delivery I will do to someone that is not a cybersecurity expert. So you start to do this assessment with them, you take them by the hand, you discuss what you have in place, etc., and then you make them suggestions. These suggestions are mission. I will show it to you live after. These missions are really specific engagement for volunteers to work with an NGO on a specific element, like implement 2FA on social media. That's kind of engagement that NGO needs. You may have, okay, do a phishing campaign for an NGO. On the other side, you have these volunteers. So all these volunteers come from the partner, so the workforce of the partner, and they can access all these missions. But of course, there is a challenge, and you get the challenges before, because when you take out cybersecurity experts, maybe you have someone that works in a security operations center that do triage, that do analysis, or maybe you have a cryptographic expert that want to volunteers. Of course, if you take these people out of their daily job and they are used to work with company, with SMEs, with internal stakeholder, and suddenly you put them in front of the guy in charge of social media for a small NGO in Benin, you have a challenge. You have a first challenge. So we need to accompany, we have to follow up and work with all these volunteers. So we started to say, okay, we need to make them understand the humanitarian language, the NGO language. So we work with different NGO to set up a small e-learning, a small training, to give, just the basic to these volunteers, telling them, okay, now you will have a different experience. You will see it will be amazing. It will be super rewarding because you will get out a few hours per month of your daily activity to work with an NGO, but you just need to understand how to talk with the NGO. So you will also not get crazy when you don't understand why they have this thematic that is for them very critical and you don't get it, why it's critical. So you need to speak the same language. So that's really the first step of the program. So it's make the volunteer understand the world of the NGOs. We tried the other side, but let's be honest, it was too complex to bring today the social media expert to the cybersecurity world. So it was more easy to bring the cyber expert to the humanitarian world. And then there is engagement. There is engagement. So there is what we call a job board. So the job board is really an online platform. But I can show it to you live. I hope you can still see my screen. So it's perfect. Thanks, Leif. So it's a platform. It's on the Mattermost, if you know it, kind of Slack and this kind of online platform. On this platform, you have all the volunteers that can access and can chat together. And what we did is that we have created what we call the job board. So the job board is really the place where you meet the needs, the operational needs and urgent needs of the NGO with the volunteering workforce. So the concept is that each mission is pretty short. So it's 1 to 4 hour missions that you can take during your day, your daily job. So during the day. Today, we work with more than 116, I think, NGO. So I think more than 100 NGO part of the program. So in terms of impact, that's actually crazy. I mean, last year we got 600 hours of volunteering that was provided. So it's amount of time and money that is impossible for the NGO to reach in the current situation. But thanks to the support of the different partners we have, we can bring them a specific help. I just took a random one to show you a bit the structure of the concept. So you see, you have always the title of the mission. You have an estimation duration of engagement that come from one side from our own expertise, but also from the feedback and the knowledge we got from previous engagement. You have an activity sector, the language they speak, because suddenly, or by here, you can imagine maybe they speak only Swahili. So that's also very important. So be able to connect the volunteers with the right audience. Country, Kenya, where they are, operation name. So that's also in terms of data privacy, we try to play a bit on the gamification. So you have operation, you have missions that you have to take. Working on the goodies, we have fancy t-shirts currently. Let me know if if you have idea of nice goodies. And you always have a small description of the mission. So that's really how it works. It means we had to create something that is very operational. Because when you're a cybersecurity expert, you want to do stuff. You don't want to spend too much time to read, to try to understand. No. You want operation, you want action. So you have this small description. You can apply to the different mission and engagement. And after that, you are directly put in touch in a room with the NGO. And I think that's also part of the value proposition we have into the program, is that on one side, where you have volunteers that come from corporation, you take them out of this daily routine. You train them on understanding a new world. You offer them the opportunity to interact directly with other environment, with other culture. And all of this, of course, you can market it. I mean, in terms of visibility, communication, interview the volunteers, interview your staff, get feedback of the NGO, what happened, why was the engagement useful, etc., etc. And that's definitively one of the key aspects of the CyberPeace Builder program, is to make these two worlds match together and on both sides be able to show what was done. To give you some examples, so here you can see there's a lot of different engagements. So we have 70 available today, but most of the engagement today they are around this general security assessment. So that's really the biggest ask we have for the NGO is from them to tell us when they join the program, hey, where do I stand? Which is great, because you know that when you are on cybersecurity program, you should start by knowing, okay, what's the current situation, what's the current posture. And from that you can tell them, okay, you start here, but we want to bring you here at the end of the day. So we will work together on the path to improve your overall cybersecurity. The second most mission we had to deliver, and that's still a need on the platform, is cybersecurity awareness training. And I have to admit, okay, I'm biased here because that's what I was doing in the past, but I love to do that so much. You know, spending 1.5 hours in front of NGO staff, telling them the basic of cybersecurity, getting their feedback, understanding the context, they share with you cyber attacks, cyber threat. That will give you a lot of information. And of course, in the approach of the institute, CyberPeace Institute, we also try to get all this information to understand the context of the NGOs, to feel the analysis team on our side, because no one cares of the NGO. You have report on SMEs, how they got attacked, etc., etc. But trying to understand the NGO situation, that's not really of interest, because it's difficult to make money out of it. So that's also kind of mission of the philanthropy, of NGO, of supporters, of CyberPeace, is to say, okay, we need to understand the situation on the ground. Other example of mission is phishing, dark web monitoring. So that's also something very nice we have into the program, is that even if we try to standardize, we have wikis, we have guides to deliver the same quality of services for the NGO across the world, we also have specific tools. So we have company that provide us with tools that we can then use. All the volunteer can use these tools to deliver engagement to the NGOs. So that's really a bit the value we try to put into the balance. Do you have any question, guys, so far a bit on the CyberPeace Builder program, the job board, how it works?
I don't think there are any questions. I think I'm just concerned that some may drop on the hour with the way scheduling works. That's all, Fabien, just in case there will be people drop in. So can we get to I don't know how many slides you've got, but can we get to how to get involved? Yeah,
I'm almost done.
Cool, thanks, mate.
Thanks to you. So yeah, so I was saying these two sides, you have the NGO, you have the partners that are companies, and of course you have the team that manage that. So we work per region. So that's all the approach of the program is to have part of the team in Geneva, and we have regional advisors. So today we have 3 of them. We have Alexandru that help us to oversee the activity of NGO in Europe. We have Zark for East Africa, and we have Santiago for Latin America. And we try to grow per different region. But of course, to be able to have this impact, be able to work with more NGO and to operate the program, we need support. We need support of volunteers. We need support of company. So the system we put in place is to work closely with private company that support the CyberPeace Institute on one side financially, and on the other side support with workforce. So the typical price, and here you have the price we make for big donation or support, but the effective cost for us is 600 Swiss francs per volunteers per year. So $50 basically per volunteers per month to be able to support our activity. So that pay the program, that pay the regional advisor, that allow us to grow, to get out to a new NGO and bring all these people in. So that's really the structure of the program, is to say, on one side, we have this company that pay the seats of their staff, so 600 Swiss francs per year per staff, to be able to involve them into the program. So the staff can then use the system in place to work directly with the NGO. And on the other side, you have all this value for the corporation to be able to explain the job of the different volunteers, of their staff, to be able to do communication around the program. So voilà, that's really the model we put in place. So of course, if you are interested to support us, get more information, get more detail, you have my contact. We will share with you the slide if needed and all the information. But that's how we operate, and I hope it also inspire you a bit. But I will be more than happy then to discuss with you to see what kind of program you already have in place, volunteering program you have in place, and of course, if you are motivated to join us in this amazing adventure to help us to work to improve the cybersecurity of NGO around the world together. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Lace.
Nice one, Fabien. Thank you very much. For those listening to the recording, I'm going to stop it here. Any follow-up you want, please come to your regional director or Fabien directly.